I guess, yeah, when I was really young, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, I knew I could become a musician and wanted to do it. And then when I was 13 or 14, when I first went to some of the summer jazz camps where you see the older kids, the high schoolers that are taking it pretty seriously, and then they're approaching college, and you learn that you can go to college for a music major. I think about that time I said, okay, let's set our sights on that. And so I didn't really even think much about how difficult it'd be being a musician. I said, I'm just going to move to LA or New York, and I'm going to start becoming a jazz guitar player, and I want to be like Grant Green, Kenny Burrell, and all these guys, even though it was a pretty different generation, different background, different ethnicity, the whole thing. I mean, I feel like for me, I didn't really think much about it. I just wanted to go do it. And I was fortunate. I had a lot of opportunities to perform when I was a teenager and already start gigging and working before I started my degree,
So what drew you getting into jazz guitar? Like, was there an album? Was there a moment where it just clicked and you said, ooh, that?
Yeah. I had just gotten the seat in my jazz band in 7th grade, and I was borrowing the school's Fender Strat that they had. They had a Strat and a Fender Deluxe 112 Plus amplifier, the solid state amp of the 90s. And I took it home for the summer, and I just said, hey, Mom, like, I know you got some jazz guitar. I need to figure out how to play jazz guitar because I'm in the jazz band. I'd never played electric guitar. I'd always had nylon string guitars. So I was 11 or 12 years old. Yeah, 12. And she gave me a George Benson record called Tenderly. And I thought that George was just the singer. I didn't realize he was also the guitar player. I was like, man, whoever's playing guitar on this, I really like this. And I in the liner notes, it said George Benson plays Ibanez guitars. And so, of course, like every kid in the 90s, I'm getting the Musician's Friend catalog, and I'm looking through Musician's Friend, and there's a picture of Ibanez guitars, and it's all these metal, and I'm like, really? Is that what he's playing? Is he playing this translucent green double cut, 24 fret guitar? Huh, interesting. So I didn't really, and this is before the internet, you couldn't really Google it. But yeah, that record, hearing his solo on Stella by Starlight, it was a lightning bolt for sure. That was what I wanted to do. And then going to the summer jazz workshops, I learned what that was and who George was inspired by. The minute I heard Grant Green, I made this connection. I said, okay, well, if George was inspired by Grant, then I can be inspired by George and Grant, and I'm going to learn how to play like these guys kind of learned from each other from the records. And that was the beginning for sure. And I've been hooked ever since then on that sound.
When did you start seeking out other players, going to jam sessions, if and when they were around?
Yeah, the first gig, I was 13. I did a gig at the Oregon Electric Station with Don Latarsky, and he hired me for it. And he said, I can pay you, $50, and we're going to play duo for 2 hours. And I was so nervous. I was so nervous. And my mom came to the gig, and we went over from Eugene, and I didn't even have an electric guitar yet. I was playing my Takamine that I play in New West, the evergreen guitar. And I get up, and the first tune he called was The Shadow of Your Smile, and I knew it. I was learning it, but I didn't know the first chord. I played it as a half diminished. And I remember just like messing so much stuff up. And it got to the point where we were just kind of vamping on chords, and I was just sort of playing blues scales. And at the end of the gig, he gave me my cash, and I had to like immediately leave the area we were playing because it was a 21 and up part of the restaurant. And he was like, "Keep coming back. Let's have you come back another 6 months and play another gig with me." And now that's how this starts. You just got to start getting out and playing. And I'm very grateful to Don. Don, of course, is a legend in Eugene. He was the guy who started the guitar program at U of O. Very close with Ralph Towner and a lot of the guys in that band, Oregon. And Don is an interesting musician in his own right, but a great guitar player and great teacher. And for him to put, somebody who's an 8th grader in that situation, have to play for 2 hours, I was just like, man, this is really overwhelming.
That is a good point you bring up. And I'm sure Perry has his own story about like his first solo guitar gig or any of our first solo guitar gigs. I remember mine. I remember I had my real book or my fake book, whatever you want to call it, with me just in case. And it was terrifying. And you're young and you're shorter than everyone. It's really strange. Yeah. Thinking back to the first solo guitar gigs. So,
yes,
as you were leaving high school, did you definitely want to go to Southern California? Were there other options on the table that you were considering, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I got accepted to New England Conservatory and Manhattan School of Music also, and NEC gave me a good scholarship. MSM, there was no financial aid, and then USC gave me a really strong scholarship, and so I kind of made the choice a little bit on that, knowing that I was probably going to end up in New York or Boston eventually for graduate work, and I knew that LA would be a great place to go for a while. But I ultimately thought going to the East Coast would be the best place for me as a jazz musician, and not knowing at all when you're 18 how expensive that is or what you really need in place to do that. And I ended up loving it here in LA, and finished the undergrad at SC. Started in '02, where I met Perry 20 years ago this August, and then finished in '06. Yeah.